Well, hey, today is unique and different for us on Mother's Day. We have our friends, Brent and Emily, who are going to present their story today. Thank you for applauding. We're so appreciative. You don't even know what the story is yet. So I love your gusto. Their story is one of adoption. Their story is one of God's hand on their life and through the ups and downs, through the highs and lows of God always leading and guiding them. So we're going to watch a short video here for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to do a Q&A with them on the stage. So everybody buckle up.
Get your tissues.
Jeez Louise. No one told me I was going to cry watching this. Get your tissues and get ready, and we're just so thankful that we get to participate in this story. So everybody, direct your attention to the screen as we watch this video.
I'm Brent.
And I'm Emily.
And we're the Sminks.
And this is our adoption story.
Watching my grandparents build their family through adoption gave me the passion to build my family through adoption as well. I saw the benefit that my grandparents provided to my aunts and uncles, so that's kind of why I've always wanted to.
When I first met Brent and we were dating, he mentioned that, and I feel like I fluctuated between wanting to have kids and maybe never having kids. But I think what's so cool is seeing Brent be so passionate about a dream that he had that I was just kind of like, sure, like, let's do it. We knew of this family at the church we grew up in who had done a domestic adoption. Brent and I are dialoguing about what we're going to do next and what domestic adoption program to go through. We're getting ready for a small town parade, and I'm doing my hair and I'm praying, and I'm like, God, if you want us to use this agency that we've heard about and know about through this family, and I didn't really know who this family, I knew of them, probably couldn't have picked them out of a crowd, but I said, if we should move forward, like, I want to run into them at the parade and talk to them about this agency, which is such a random thing to pray. But I'm sitting on the curb at the parade, and this lady walks over to me and is like, Emily, and it was her. I was like, hi. So we chatted. She gave me some more information. That was on a Saturday, and I called the agency first thing Monday morning. We fell in love with them. I just felt seen and heard, and again, felt just like loved through the journey and choices that we were making. And so we went for it, and we filled out an application and started the paperwork process for our domestic adoption, and that was in September of 2018. And the way that our agency works is birth moms, when they make the choice to place their baby for adoption, they get to look through profiles of families, so they get to pick the family that they think would be a good fit. And then the agency calls us, kind of gives us background information on birth mom, baby, health, different things, and we can decide if we would like to move forward or we can say no at that time. In early 2019, we got a phone call that a birth mom had chosen us, and so we said yes. We were excited. Baby was going to be due in July, so we actually had quite a bit of time, and we really got to know this birth mom. We developed a relationship with her. We felt really just excited and good about this baby being born and having this whole family connection, being able to have a connection with the birth mom and kind of do life not so much together, but just
be involved, be a part.
Yeah, that was something we actually had prayed about. So we flew out. We were asked to be at the hospital. It was a pretty traumatic pregnancy. There was some complications. In the state of Georgia, which is where our agency is located, birth moms have 4 days from the time they sign paperwork giving you guardianship of the child. They have 4 days where they can change their mind. And due to the traumatic pregnancy, the baby was kept in the hospital for those 4 days, and birth mom went back and forth on what she wanted to do. There was a lot of family complications. There was a lot of stuff going on in the background, which we knew about. And in the end, she chose to parent her child, which was great. That is what you want, is that these women can be supported. And her family did come around and were able to support her in that decision, which initially she did not think would be the case. But it left us just heartbroken again. Like, what you think will be God redeeming a story just feels like complete heartbreak. And I mean, I just remember like sitting on the shower floor crying, like wondering, what are we going to do? I mean, I think we laid in bed and cried and just like, what are we going to do? Or like, are we ever having kids? And, yeah, it was really devastating. Flying home with an empty car seat, having to come back and tell, like, people thought we were coming back with a baby. We came home from that, and it was devastating. It was really hard to bounce back from that. Our agency just puts you right back on the list as you feel comfortable. And so again, we were just in this season of waiting. Like, you want a phone call, but you're also like, don't call me unless the baby's born and ready to go, because you just have no idea. So in January of 2020, we received another phone call, and they said it was going to be a baby boy. And so instantly I was like, no thanks.
I was like, let's go.
Yeah, he's like, all right. We were supposed to have a girl. So I had this whole idea built up of what it would be like. And they said it was a boy. And I remember sitting on our steps and actually thinking, like, no, we're not going to say yes to this. And Brent's like, yes, we are. So we said yes. He was set to be due in the beginning of February. And so we only had a few weeks to get boy stuff. We had all girl stuff and fly out. So again, we flew out. And our son, Memphis Mercury, we'll get emotional again, was born on February 7th, 2020. And we met our social workers and picked him up. And those 4 days were hard, knowing that she could change her mind. But then those 4 days went by, and I remember something God taught me in all of that. I woke up in the middle of the night. Memphis needed to be fed, and I was holding him, and I just was in love with him. And this was my baby, but he wasn't my baby at any point for the next 48 hours. We were 2 days in at that time. She could decide that she wanted him back, and I just remember getting up and going into the bathroom and crying and being so afraid of it all happening over again. And I remember God just audibly in the middle of the night said, your kids are your kids as long as I allow them to be your kids, whether it's 2 days, 4 days, 40 years, whatever that looks like they're the gift from him. And that I just felt like my attitude turned around right after that, and I was able to make it through those 4 days, and I'm still making it today. So yeah, we brought Memphis home. We were in Georgia for a few weeks, so it was almost a month before we got back home with him, and it was just the best, like a little miracle, like with
all the struggle and the heartache all kind of melted away.
A couple more months went by, and we got a call about this birth mom, and I loved her story, and we said yes. We were like, yeah, we'll move forward. It was not an easy yes. I did a lot of talking with our social worker to kind of work through this particular match. So we said yes to that match, and on July 6th, 2022, Ziggy was born, and all of our families flew in, and it was just the best summer vacation I've ever had. Memphis came. We just got to have all this.
Stayed at the beach, and all our families were there. Now we have 2 boys. It's kind of come full circle. We, through the ups and the downs, in the hardest of times, it felt like there was, no end in sight. But now Through each of those heartaches, we've had the most joy getting our boys. Like it was kind of high highs, low lows.
I think it's been cool to see God's faithfulness. I think it's been cool to know like how much we've doubted God and been so broken and angry, and to still see him show up and love us and provide. He didn't walk away from us or our dreams when we felt like that was the case. Yeah. He just had a better plan and better timing, and looking back, I couldn't imagine having our boys, having any other child in our home at any other time than when we got them. I think that while our story is our story of adoption and how we built our family, I think what I love about it is it's everyone's story. It's this journey of having a dream and being faithful to a call that God has given you when no one else can understand or see that call, but staying faithful to it because we know it's our call from God, and doubting God and being angry and expressing that and truly walking it out with God, and then seeing the joy from staying faithful. And so I just feel like if it's a baby you're waiting on, or a job, or a spouse, or you want victory in your marriage, or for a family member or a child in your home already, I just hope that our story gives hope, because that's just truly who I believe God is, having gone through just some of the most heartbreaking times.
And coming out on the other side, even though it was tough, it seemed tough, but just having that faith to keep pursuing, sticking with it.
I didn't know you're going to cry in church today. Jeez, I was like a minute into that, and I've already seen it. I was like, whoa, here we go. Brent and Emily, what a powerful story. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable enough to share and be able to share what God's done in your life. That's not an easy thing to do, and especially when it comes to kids. How many people we know who struggle with infertility, walk through the idea of adopting, walk through these different moments, and kind of don't know what to do. And I think it's probably a large part of our hearts today is we want to let people know that there's different ways to love God's children.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you guys so much for sharing your story. And I was wanting to maybe start out, we're going to have a little short conversation here, get a little bit more insight into like the backstory, into how God's been a part of your guys' story. And I'd love to start at the beginning of your story. And even Brent, you shared like your grandparents did the adoption journey. And so the question that I wanted to ask you is, how did the two of you decide that adoption was how you wanted to build your family?
Yeah, I think it kind of started with me. Like you said, my grandparents adopted my mom and all my aunts and uncles. So that's just kind of what I grew up with. It's kind of what I already knew growing up. So when it kind of came the time to kind of think about that, I always wanted to. I always thought there's a need for families to adopt, so I thought we could fill that need.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Out of just what you experienced in your family, that was on your heart. Emily is part of that. You know, when you guys started dating and you started talking about that, you even mentioned the video that wasn't necessarily in your forethought.
I was like, I thought we were just getting married. Like, I didn't realize there was anything beyond that you were dreaming about. No, I said it in the video. Like, I just love that he had a dream, and it's easy to follow someone who has a dream and a plan, and that was his call from the Lord. And so I'm a doer. I was like, great, so we're doing it. And Brent was like, well, not right now. And I was like, no, like I already found this age. I called this place. We had actually done an international adoption. So it was wild. 8 years cut down to 11 minutes. Wow. I was like, wow, looks really good like that.
Seems like a piece of cake.
Yeah. But so we had started there, and I was like, no, we're going. I did all the paperwork, and then he was like, wait, so it was like a team. For this yet. Yeah, it was like a team effort, which is great. Like, he had the dream, and we've kind of both pushed each other when the other one wasn't quite there yet. So.
Yeah, 8 years of a journey. That's incredible. I think you started talking about 2018 was the domestic adoption journey, and prior was the international adoption. One of the things that even I didn't prepare you for this question, but we've talked about this before.
Let's go, guys. It's getting started right now.
Well, so a lot of people, when they hear that people are deciding to adopt, they often infer that maybe you're having issues or anything like that. I don't want to publicly talk about anything like that. But for you guys have always you have always had a heart for adoption, and you get that question a lot. How do you process having conversations with people about your guys' choice to adopt?
That is the number one question we get asked, is if we can have biological children, and the answer is yes.
We don't know.
We can. This was always Brent's dream.
Yeah, I just never really saw. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, it was a dream," and yes, it was a dream, but it was more like this is just how I always thought my life would go. Yeah. Like, it wasn't really like I was like pursuing this, and like when she was like, "Oh yeah, let's adopt," she's doing all the paperwork and getting all this stuff. Like, I just always saw myself adopting. It was never like I'm going for it. It was just, I feel like God always wanted me to, and that's just. So when people say, "Oh, this was your dream," I'm like, it wasn't really a dream. It's hard to explain. It wasn't really a dream. It was just I knew this is what I was going to do. Yeah. So luckily she agreed.
Well, you picked the right one, right? I mean, so I'm sure getting questions like that is a challenging part of the journey. But I want to ask you, in all of the ups and downs in the video, other things you have experienced, what's been some of the most challenging parts of the adoption process?
The loss, really. I mean, I think going into it, we were really young, and we didn't have a lot of support in the way of people who'd gone before us. Yeah. And so I truly think that we thought we would do all the paperwork and send it in, and they would call us, and we would go get a baby. And that wasn't the way that our story went. There are wonderful, beautiful stories where that does happen. It just was not our story, and I can see now why that was, and the delays. And I mean, I don't think we'd be in church if it wasn't for the empty car seat. Oh, I'll get emotional. But after the empty car seat, someone in church reached out and asked. Well, we'd only been here. I knew this person outside of church, and they asked if they could pray for me, and I obviously said no, because I was like, that's weird. And then I wasn't in church.
They didn't know what to do. They didn't know if they could laugh at that.
No, you can laugh at that. It was uncomfortable. I was like, you cannot come and pray for me, but thank you. And then a couple of days later, I called her back and was like, you can come and pray for me. And we still, I wouldn't say every week, but I called her last night to pray for me. We still pray together regularly, and her husband are who invited us to View. And so the heartache's been the hardest part, but it's brought us back to Jesus.
Yeah, it's definitely, like you said, the heartache. It's weird kind of talking about the heartache now because it seems so long ago, and we have boys now. But yeah, the heartache, the empty car seat, I think that was probably the biggest punch in the gut. People asking where the baby is, the flight attendant, stuff like that.
I remember my dad was checking our bags, and he holds the car seat up. I think he's like trying to do it for us, and the lady was like, "What is this for?" And we're like, "Don't worry about it." Yeah.
Do you want me to cry in front of you?
There's no child here. We get it. We're just traveling with the car seat. Like, if you could just load it up.
I can only imagine. The questions in that situation. I think that's even like where you said you started coming to View right after, and that's kind of where our journey, our like friendship even intersected. It was in the hallway. I mean, we talk about Sunday mornings as being really special and amazing, but the interactions that you have on the way to grab a handful of mints in the bathroom or at the coffee or greeting, those are some of the most anointed moments too in church and in our view groups and things like that, where I think service hadn't even finished and we both ran into each other at the bathroom. You commented on my lip color, and
it was good. It was good that day.
and then you started sharing that you guys were just about to go and pick up Memphis, and we got to pray together in that moment. And just one of the most amazing things is seeing the different ways that God's shown up in your story. And so I want to open that question up of how have you seen God in your journey with adoption? You shared a little bit on the video, but you can expand on that a little bit right now.
I can go first. Well, I would say, at least for us, when she prayed, like she shared in the story about the fair, that is kind of a God moment there. There's really no other way to explain it. So that, and then just we feel like through our journey, a lot of doors have opened for us, and then a lot have shut. And just kind of God being with us through, the tough times when we were in Georgia, coming back, the unknowns of once you receive the baby, there's the 4 days. So just a lot of relying on God in that, and just praying. And now that we've kind of been through it, and just the faithfulness that God has, that no matter what, this is God's plan. We got a crash course in it on the first time, and we came out on the other side. So now going into when we went in with it, Ziggy, to get him, we kind of had a bit more of a realistic expectation of trusting God a bit more. I feel like Ziggy's was a little easier because we're like, all right, we
had a loss right before Ziggy too that wasn't in the video. So it's just been it's been hard because you feel like God opens doors and then you're like, yeah, this is exactly like the match we had gotten right before Ziggy is actually exactly what I'd prayed for. And God shut that door, and I was thinking, but I prayed for it and you answered. And then you took it. And I think it's just so easy in those moments for us to doubt the goodness of God and to doubt our calling, and what, are we really supposed to be doing this? And, Brent mentioned it feels so in the past, because it is, and we are moving forward, but even recently we had another opportunity and it didn't work out, and it was also another thing we'd been praying for, and we're like, what in the world? But I think the difference is we so fully trust God, and what doesn't work out or what doesn't come to fruition, I know what he has is better. And I have two little miracles that sleep in our house every night. And it's just I could go on and on. God is so good. I think my heart today is just that if anyone is in a season of feeling like God is just shutting the door on them, we would love to pray for you, because we have been there, and it's so defeating, especially when you have this dream, this vision for your life. I eventually did decide I wanted kids. That was the hard part. I kind of went into it whatever happens, happens. I personally don't care. It's his dream. I'm supporting him. But then I was like, oh no, I really want kids. Wow. And so when it took us 5 years to get Memphis, from the time we started in 2016, to the time we held him was 5 years. And I know there's people in this room who've waited longer and shorter, and it doesn't matter. It is so hard. So.
Yeah, I love your guys' passion for the adoption process too. As we've been in relationship with you guys for a couple of years, you guys are really passionate about supporting other people who are going through this and providing awareness and understanding. Even just like you said, you didn't have people who went before you, and so a lot of it came as a surprise, or just the next step was just new doors, new things at all times. And so just for anyone in the room, even just thinking about adoption or just wanting to understand the adoption process, what are some questions that you guys get asked as part of your journey specifically, but even just about the adoption process? What are some questions that people ask?
I would say, now every adoption's differently. We're just speaking on what we know. But I'd say probably the number one question would be timelines. A lot of people, I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions. There are the stories that everything works out perfect, and they turn into a TLC movie or something like that. But the timeline is probably one of the number
That's
ones.
what we just filmed.
Yeah, or Hallmark. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hallmark.
Yeah, I think finances is probably
yeah.
the biggest question, and the answer is no, you can't afford it. We live in 1,300 square feet. We're never moving. We'll build bunk beds however high they need to go. But it has always worked out. God has always provided. I think one question I get asked, which you guys will gasp, you'll think no one would ever ask us that, but people ask if it would be before they met our boys, before we had Memphis, I would get asked, are you going to love them as much as you would love a biological child? And for us, we just I don't know. I can't imagine loving anything more than my boys. They're fire. Did you see them? So cute. Oh. They don't look like us, so I can brag and brag and brag because I had nothing to do with it.
I'm glad you said it.
So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. The passage in Scripture that comes to mind is Ephesians 1:4-5, that even before you made the world, God loved us and chose us in Christ to be holy and without fault in his eyes. And God decided in advance to adopt us. And through your guys' journey and what you guys have decided ahead of time to do shows the heart of Jesus and shows the heart of God. And that's such a testimony to your family, to your friends who are here to support. You have 3 rows of people here at this service. I'm sure you have more even coming next service, but that's such a beautiful part. Kyle, I've kind of taken over. Do you have any questions?
It's your day. I wasn't about to interrupt you. Yeah, no, I'm way good.
I would love to even talk about the idea of you guys sharing on Mother's Day. We talked on the phone, and I don't know if you feel comfortable with me sharing what you said about Mother's Day, but
I said that I don't really like Mother's Day. I think I was maybe more harsh than that, but for Sunday morning, yeah. I just feel like I don't always feel represented. I mean, first and foremost, Father's Day, Mother's Day, we share that day with somebody else. And that is our number one priority, is honoring our boys' birth mothers. Yeah, wow. They're the reason we have our boys.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that gets missed a lot with adoption and that's something that we try to advocate for, is the birth moms, because this is, the biggest decision, one of the biggest decisions of their lives, and we just always like to highlight that it's not just us, and we tell our boys that they have a tummy mommy. I can speak.
Memphis has been asking a lot, and it's been so fun to tell him about his birth mom, and he's so interested, and they're wonderful women, and they deserve to be celebrated and honored. And that's a big part of our journey too, is we just wanted to expand. We actually wanted open adoptions, and both moms chose for the time being to have them be closed. But we are just the more the merrier. Whoever wants to help us love these kids is what our hearts are for, because that's what's best for them. Yeah. And so we pray often that their moms will want to be in their life eventually, and we are very much open to that.
I love that. You guys are great.
That's great. Hey, church, can we give Brent and Emily just the biggest round of applause and thank them?